What if I told you that the food on your grocery store shelves could vanish overnight? Not because of a zombie apocalypse, but because the government could legally take it. Imagine standing in line at the store, stomach growling, kids at home waiting for dinner, and there's nothing left. No meat, no beans, no soup. You felt it already. Empty shelves, rising prices, and those out of stock signs everywhere. This isn't just inflation or a bad week, it's the beginning of something bigger. Climate change is wrecking crops, shipping routes are getting blocked by storms and wars, and the supply chain is cracking under pressure. And here's what they're not telling you. There are 10 specific canned foods the government has the power to seize during a crisis, foods you probably already have or that think you can just grab later. In this video, we'll show you exactly which items top the list, why the feds want them, and how past events prove this isn't theory. It's real. You'll learn what everyday Americans are missing, how to protect what you have, and why acting now could mean the difference between surviving or starving. So if you care about keeping your family fed when things fall apart, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell, and don't go anywhere, because what you're about to see could save your life. Let's start with the 10th item on this list. Let's understand why it's so valuable in a crisis. Canned tuna and sardines may not be the first things that come to mind when you think of emergency food, but they are among the most nutrient-dense options available. These small cans pack a serious punch, loaded with protein, omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin D, and selenium. A single 3-ounce can of tuna gives you around 200 calories, while sardines offer even more energy in the same serving size. That kind of nutrition is exactly what makes them a favorite for military rations and FEMA emergency kits. They're compact, lightweight, and require no cooking or preparation. Just open and eat. This simplicity makes them perfect for large-scale disaster relief efforts where clean water and cooking facilities may be unavailable. Because of their value, government agencies like Homeland Security already monitor the national supply of canned fish. During major emergencies such as hurricanes or wildfires, these items are often redirected to federal stockpiles under laws like the Stafford Act. That means store shelves can be cleared overnight, leaving civilians with limited access. Even minor disruptions like regional flooding or transportation delays can cause sudden shortages across the country. If a product matches government specifications, it's more likely to be pulled into emergency reserves before you ever get the chance to buy it. Smart preppers know this and take action early. Choosing lesser-known or imported brands can help you avoid drawing attention to your stockpile. Storing supplies in multiple locations, especially off-site caches, also increases your chances of keeping some supply safe during a seizure. Tuna and sardines aren't just convenient, they're survival essentials. Their long shelf life, portability, and unmatched nutrition make them highly desirable for both individuals and government agencies alike. So, if you're still waiting to build your stash, now might be the last chance you get before the next crisis hits. Before we talk about the 9th item on this list, let's take a moment to understand why it holds such importance in emergency planning. Canned tomatoes and tomato paste may not be the first things that come to mind when you think of survival food, but they play a crucial role in both nutrition and large-scale feeding operations. These pantry staples are packed with essential vitamins like vitamin C, vitamin A, potassium, and lycopene. Nutrients that help support immune function, especially during stressful or unsanitary conditions when medical care might be limited. Beyond their nutritional value, canned tomatoes are incredibly versatile. They can turn simple ingredients like rice, beans, or pasta into hearty, flavorful meals without requiring extra cooking skills or equipment. That's why government agencies like the USDA and FEMA already stockpile them for military rations, school lunch programs, and disaster relief efforts. In fact, these items are so vital that any disruption in supply, whether due to climate-related crop failures or transportation issues, can trigger shortages across the country. This year alone, early season flooding in California's Central Valley, where most of America's tomatoes are processed, caused massive losses and pushed prices up by nearly 40%. When supplies tighten, stores empty fast, and the government often steps in to secure what's left. The 8th item on this list, let's take a closer look at something most people overlook when preparing for emergencies: nutrition. When disaster hits, your body needs more than just calories. It needs essential vitamins, minerals, and fiber to stay strong and fight off illness. That's where canned vegetables come in. While many preppers focus on high-calorie foods like rice, beans, and canned meats, they often forget that without proper micronutrients, your body starts to break down. Scurvy, anemia, and digestive issues can set in quickly when fresh produce disappears from stores. Canned vegetables like corn, peas, carrots, and green beans aren't just side dishes, they're survival essentials. These items are already stocked in massive quantities by the USDA through programs like TFAP, the Emergency Food Assistance Program, which means the government sees their value too. In major disasters, these cans are among the first to be redirected into federal relief efforts under emergency laws like the Stafford Act. What makes them even more critical is their shelf life. Low-acid vegetables such as green beans and carrots can last for years if stored properly. As long as the cans remain sealed and undamaged, they're safe to eat far beyond their labeled expiration dates. And unlike frozen or fresh produce, they don't require refrigeration or preparation, just open and eat. But here's what most people miss. During a crisis, store shelves empty fast, not just because of panic buying, but because government agencies have the authority to pull supplies directly from warehouses and retailers. If you're counting on grabbing a few cans last minute, you might find yourself out of luck. Smart preppers know this risk and plan ahead. They stock up gradually, mixing national brands with store labels and international options to avoid drawing attention. Some even dehydrate and vacuum seal their own vegetables for longer storage and less visibility. Canned vegetables do more than keep you healthy. They help maintain morale. Their bright colors, sweet flavors, and familiar textures make meals feel normal again, even in the worst of times. For families with children, having recognizable food can reduce stress and resistance during uncertain periods. If you haven't started building your supply yet, now is the time. Because once the next disruption hits, whether it's a hurricane, flood, or supply chain collapse, these everyday staples may not be so easy to find. Before we talk about the seventh item on this list, let's take a moment to imagine what it's like when everything goes wrong at once. The power's out, water's shut off, roads are blocked, and your only option for food is what you already have on hand. In situations like these, having meals that require zero prep becomes priceless. That's where canned ready meals like chili, pasta, and stew come in. These aren't just convenience foods, they're survival essentials. Unlike dry staples like rice or beans, which need water and cooking time, canned ready meals can be eaten straight from the can. No heat, no fuel, no electricity, just open and eat. They provide a perfect balance of protein, carbs, and fat. Everything your body needs to keep going when normal life has stopped. The government knows this too. That's why canned meals like Hormel chili, Chef Boyardee pasta, and similar products are already part of military rations and FEMA emergency plans. These items are built to last, often with shelf lives of 5 years or more. They're compact, easy to transport, and ideal for feeding large groups during disasters. But here's what most people don't realize. In a real crisis, these cans won't stay on store shelves for long. Major brands are already on federal procurement lists, meaning they can be redirected into emergency supply chains within hours of a declared disaster. During Hurricane Katrina and Superstorm Sandy, entire truckloads of canned meals were pulled from retail distribution and sent straight to relief centers. For preppers, this means timing is everything. If you wait until a storm is on the radar or a blackout hits, it might already be too late. Stores empty fast, not just because of panic buying, but because government agencies have the authority to pull supplies before civilians even get a chance to buy them. Smart preppers stock up gradually and discreetly. They avoid relying solely on big-name brands that are more likely to be targeted. Instead, they look for regional or lesser-known labels that offer the same nutrition without drawing attention. Some even buy in bulk and hide reserves in separate locations to protect their stash from potential seizures. Canned ready meals aren't just about convenience, they're about keeping your energy up and your morale strong when everything else is falling apart. A warm bowl of beef stew or a quick serving of spaghetti can make all the difference after a hard day of dealing with chaos. Before we talk about the sixth item on this list, let's take a moment to imagine what happens when fresh meat disappears from store shelves overnight. It doesn't take a war or a total collapse. Just a few bad storms, a transportation strike, or a single contaminated processing plant. Suddenly your fridge is empty, and the butcher case at the grocery store looks like a ghost town. That's when you realize how fragile our food system really is. Now, picture this. You're standing in that same store, but instead of panic, You feel calm because you've got a secret weapon in your pantry: canned meat. Spam, Vienna sausage, corned beef, luncheon meats. These unassuming cans might not look like much, but they're survival gold. Fully cooked, shelf stable for years, and packed with calories and protein, they're one of the most reliable emergency foods you can have on hand. The government knows it too. In fact, under laws like the Defense Production Act, federal agencies already have the power to take control of meat production and distribution if national security is threatened. During the height of the pandemic, we saw exactly that. Meatpacking plants were labeled essential and kept running while other industries shut down. Why? Because protein matters. And canned meat is one of the easiest ways to keep people fed during large scale emergencies. FEMA and Homeland Security stockpile these items in massive quantities. They know that in a real crisis, people won't be roasting chickens or grilling steaks. They'll need something that lasts, travels well, and requires zero prep. A single 12-ounce can of Spam gives you nearly 1,000 calories, enough to fuel someone through a full day of hard labor, scavenging, or evacuation efforts. But here's the part most people don't think about. When disaster hits, store shelves empty fast, not just from panic buying, but from government action. Federal agencies can legally pull shipments directly from warehouses and redirect them into emergency supply chains within hours of a declared crisis. If you're waiting until the last minute to grab a few cans, you might find yourself out of luck. Smart preppers avoid this by building their stash gradually and quietly. They don't just buy the big name brands that everyone recognizes. Instead, they look for lesser known lunch meats, international options, and off-brand products that offer the same nutrition without drawing attention. Some even rotate their stock using the FIFO method, first in, first out, so nothing ever goes to waste. Canned meat isn't just about staying full, it's about staying strong. When every calorie counts and every meal is a decision, having high energy, ready to eat protein makes all the difference. Whether you're feeding a family or surviving alone, these cans are more than convenience food. They're emergency fuel. If you haven't started building your own reserve yet, now is the time. Because once the next disruption hits, whether it's a blackout, a flood, or another breakdown in the supply chain, these everyday staples could vanish faster than you think. Now we talk about the fifth item on this list. Let's take a moment to think about what really keeps you going when everything else fails. It's not just calories, but it's nutrition, sustainability, and the ability to keep your strength up for days on end without fresh food. That's where beans come in. Not just dry beans in buckets, but canned beans, already cooked, ready to eat, and packed with everything your body needs to survive. Most people don't realize how powerful a single can of black beans or pinto beans really is. Each serving gives you 7 to 9 grams of plant-based protein, complex carbs for lasting energy, and essential minerals like magnesium, potassium, and iron. This isn't just emergency food, it's survival fuel. And unlike other staples that need water or preparation, you can open a can and eat it straight from the metal. That's exactly why canned beans are already part of federal emergency plans. Programs like TFAP, the Emergency Food Assistance Program, and CSFP, Commodity Supplemental Food Program, stockpile massive quantities of these superfoods to stabilize food supplies during disasters. In major crises, the government has the authority, under laws like the Defense Production Act, to seize private warehouse stocks, redirect retail inventories, and even pull supplies directly from supermarkets. This means that once a crisis is declared, canned beans might vanish from store shelves overnight, and if you're waiting until the last minute to grab a few cans, you might find yourself out of luck. Smart preppers know this risk and act early. They keep a visible layer of common brands like Goya or Bush's in their pantry while tucking away larger institutional-sized cans or lesser-known off-brand options in hidden locations. They also spread their stash across multiple storage points so no single event wipes out their entire supply. Before we talk about the fourth item on this list, let's take a moment to imagine what it's like when the power's out, the water's off, and you're staring at an empty stove. You've got food, sure, but most of it needs cooking, seasoning, maybe even clean water you don't have. That's where canned soups and stews come in. These unassuming cans are more than just comfort food. They're survival tools. A single can gives you protein, carbs, fat, and hydration all in one. No extra ingredients, no prep, no fire needed, just open and eat. That kind of convenience doesn't go unnoticed by the people planning for disaster. In fact, canned soups and stews are already baked into emergency response plans by FEMA, the Red Cross, and even the military. They know how valuable these meals are when everything else fails. During the 2024 Gulf Coast freeze, entire trainloads of beef stew were redirected to relief efforts, leaving store shelves bare for weeks. And that wasn't some isolated event, it was a clear example of how quickly government agencies can pull these supplies out of circulation when a crisis hits. One of the biggest advantages of canned soups and stews is their liquid content. In a disaster where clean water is scarce or contaminated, having ready-to-eat meals with built-in hydration is a game changer. Even the high sodium levels in these products can help retain fluids during dehydration, though in long-term emergencies, that's something to monitor carefully. But here's what most people miss. Because these cans are so practical, they're also among the first items targeted for seizure under emergency laws. Big brands like Campbell's and Progresso are already on federal procurement lists, which means once a national crisis is declared, those cans could vanish overnight, not just from warehouses, but from retail stores too. Smart preppers know this and adjust accordingly. They avoid relying solely on big-name brands and instead stock up on regional or international varieties that aren't as likely to be flagged. Store brand options and lesser known foreign labels offer the same nutrition without drawing attention. Some even rotate between meat based stews, vegetarian soups, and creamy chowders to prevent food fatigue during long term crises. Canned soups and stews aren't just easy meals, they're morale boosters. On a cold night after a hard day of dealing with chaos, a warm bowl of soup can feel like hope. It reminds you of normalcy, of better times, and helps keep your spirits up when everything around you feels broken. And let's not forget shelf life. These cans last for years when stored properly. As long as the seal stays intact, they remain safe to eat well past their expiration date. That makes them ideal for both short-term disruptions and long-term emergencies. If you haven't started building your own stash yet, now is the time. Because when the next crisis hits, whether it's a blackout, a flood, or another breakdown in the supply chain, these everyday cans could disappear faster than you think. Third item on this list, let's take a moment to think about what really keeps your body and mind going when everything goes wrong. It's not just calories or protein. Sometimes it's something as simple as a sweet taste of normalcy. That's where canned fruit in light syrup comes in. Most people overlook it when preparing for emergencies, thinking it's just a snack or dessert. But in a real crisis, these cans become much more than that. Imagine weeks without fresh produce. No apples, no oranges, no bananas, nothing. Without vitamin C, your body starts breaking down. Scurvy isn't just an old sailor's disease. It can come back faster than you think. And that's exactly why canned fruit isn't just a treat, it's survival food. The syrup adds liquid, which helps with hydration, and the natural sugars give you quick energy when every calorie counts. FEMA knows this. That's why they include canned fruit in emergency kits for hospitals, nursing homes, and relief centers. These cans are easy to transport, have a long shelf life, and provide critical nutrients that most other canned foods don't. During Hurricanes Ian and Harold, canned peaches and mandarins were among the first items requested by disaster response teams because they helped stabilize nutrition for vulnerable groups like children, seniors, and patients recovering from injuries. But here's what most people miss. Canned fruit doesn't just feed the body, it feeds the mind. In high-stress situations, having something familiar and comforting can make all the difference. A single can of sweet peaches or pears can lift spirits, ease anxiety, and remind people of better days. For kids especially, the small pleasure of eating something sweet can reduce stress and help them cope during uncertain times. Let's talk about the second item on this list. Let's take a moment to think about what really keeps you going when the power's out, the roads are blocked, and your usual meals are gone. It's not just about filling your stomach, it's about fueling your body with something that lasts, packs a punch, and doesn't need any prep. That's where canned peanut butter comes in. Most people don't realize how powerful a simple jar of peanut butter can be in an emergency. But if you've ever tried to survive off basic grains and dried goods for weeks, you know how much energy matters. Canned peanut butter isn't just a snack, it's a calorie-dense survival food loaded with protein, healthy fats, and essential nutrients. A single serving gives you hundreds of calories in seconds, no cooking, no water, and no cleanup required. And here's the thing, the government already knows this. That's why peanut butter shows up in military MREs, disaster relief kits, and even long-term food storage plans. It's compact, shelf-stable for years, and incredibly versatile. You can spread it on crackers, mix it into oatmeal, or even eat it straight from the spoon when things get desperate. But here's what most people miss. In a real crisis, supplies like these don't stay on store shelves for long. And it's not just because of panic buying. Federal agencies have the authority to pull large shipments of critical foods directly from warehouses and redirect them into emergency stockpiles. Once that happens, civilian access drops fast. Canned peanut butter might not look like a high value target, but its nutritional density and long shelf life make it exactly the kind of product that could disappear quietly during a government led supply grab, especially if it matches federal specifications used in military or FEMA contracts. Smart preppers know this and act early. They avoid relying solely on the big name brands everyone recognizes. Instead, they look for commercial sized cans, bulk packed options, or lesser known brands that offer the same nutrition without drawing attention. Some even switch to powdered peanut butter, which lasts even longer and takes up less space. Storage is key. Keep your stash in a cool, dark place to extend shelf life. Rotate your stock using the FIFO method, first in, first out, so nothing goes to waste. And if you're really serious, consider storing part of your supply in a separate location, like a safe room or off-site storage unit. Canned peanut butter isn't just comfort food, it's survival fuel. In a world where clean water might be scarce and cooking impossible, having a ready-to-eat source of dense calories and protein could mean the difference between surviving and thriving. If you haven't started building your own reserve yet, now is the time. Because when the next crisis hits, whether it's a blackout, a flood, or another breakdown in the supply chain, these everyday staples could vanish overnight. The first item on this list, let's take a moment to imagine what it's like when you have no options left, especially if you're a parent, the power's out, water's contaminated, roads are blocked, and your baby is crying, hungry, and completely dependent on you. In that moment, nothing else matters except one thing: feeding them. That's where canned infant formula comes in, not just as food, but as a lifeline. Most people don't think about infant formula when preparing for emergencies, but for families with babies, it's not just important, it's non-negotiable. Unlike adults who can survive on beans, rice, and canned meat for weeks, infants need specific nutrition to grow, develop, and stay healthy. Even a short disruption in their feeding routine can lead to serious health issues. That's why Ready to Feed, RTF formula, is so valuable in a crisis. No mixing, no clean water needed, just open and feed. And here's what most people miss. During large-scale disasters, stores don't just run out of formula because of panic buying. They run out because the government steps in. Under laws like the Defense Production Act, federal authorities have the power to redirect supplies of critical goods, including infant formula, into emergency distribution channels. During the 2022 to 2023 formula shortage, FEMA and the USDA worked directly with manufacturers to control shipments and prioritize hospitals and relief centers. That meant regular parents were left scrambling to find even a single bottle. Canned infant formula isn't just stocked by families, it's already part of federal emergency reserves. FEMA keeps dedicated supplies specifically for disaster zones where clean water is unavailable and infant needs are highest. But when a major crisis hits, those same supplies are prioritized for public use, leaving private access nearly impossible.